Blessed Love family, we have to talk. Let's talk about this. So, I see a lot of our people acting as if your head is still buried in the sand. A lot of our people are still behaving as though you don't know our past. And for us to understand where we are today and where we are going, we have to know where we're coming from. And I will forever come out here and sound my sound because some of you need to wake up. Some of you need to open up your eyes and open up your brain. Some of you need to go and find the information. Some of you sit down and you think that is already done out here. You think that what you see in front of your eyes is just so. I talk about so many issues on this channel, and I don't come out here and just talk because I just want to talk. I am talking for the betterment of you. And I'm also talking for the betterment of humanity on a whole. I want you to get an understanding, and I also want you to understand our past so that you can understand where we are today, and you can also understand where we need to be. Let's talk about the subject matter, which is buck breaking. And the correct word for it is really butt breaking. So this process called buck breaking or butt breaking, there on the plantations in Jamaica, our men were demasculated. Massa beat them into submission. Massa on the plantations, yes, master. He would beat our men into submission, beat them until they bled, beat them until they said no more, okay, they gave in. And then what would Massa do? Massa would take his clothes off and he would have his way with that man. His sons or his offsprings would take front row to see the humiliation, the breakdown, and the demasculation of his father, as well as his wife. That would happen on the plantations. Massa would put the man to slump over on a piece of tree bark. And that's what Massa would do. Massa would also call in other slave masters from other plantations to come and join in and have their way with our ancestors, with our men there on the plantations. And that was a very awful, can you imagine? That was a very awful, a gruesome process. A very taking up, stripping that man completely of his manhood. That is not our way. That is not in us. That is not the way in which we do things. That way was brought onto us. It was forced onto us. We were beaten into submission by our slave masters. I want you to go back and go look. I'm not telling you to look at history. Go and look at your story. Look at our story. Get the education and get in the know. Family, on the plantations, in particular, on the breaking plantations in Jamaica, because Jamaica was used as a breaking ground for slaves. So for those of you who don't know and keep talking about how we people them are rebel and we are this and we are that and how we this and how we cantankerous and how we bad and how... Listen, the biggest and the baddest of slaves were placed on the plantations in Jamaica. And I don't want nobody come here on my channel and come tell me, say, oh, you're talking about slavery that's been longer. No. Whatever happened in the past is what shapes you for the future. We are all suffering from post-traumatic slave disorder, whether you want to believe it or not. We as a people have never healed from the ills of all these atrocities that was inflicted upon us as a people. And you can come here and say this happened years ago, so it was not you that it was inflicted upon. Well, look here. It happened to our ancestors, and there's something that's called transgenerational slave syndrome and transgenerational slave disorder. So these things have been transferred. It came down from our ancestors, from your grandmother, to your mother. And then it came all the way down in the family line to you. So don't make nobody tell you nothing. A lot of things that we do to our children, our parents did it to us. And if you talk to your parents, they'll tell you that their parents did it to them. And their parents told them that their parents did it to them. So let's revisit the plantation. We have men who were considered to be breeders. So our strong, healthy men were put to breed with even their own mothers. Yes, they would put brown paper bags over their heads. They'd flog them into submission. They'd put them to breed with their sisters. They'd put them to breed with their cousins. What is that again? That is incest. Hello? You need to wake up and you need to smell the coffee. I tell you all the time that some of you are walking in your sleep. The information is there. And I must admit that a lot of these things were not taught to us in school. I was very passionate about history, and I studied history in high school all the way up to sixth form. I did history because I really wanted to delve more into this. And as such, I came out with A's for history. And I never let go of history, in particular, our story. So I have got a lot that I have come to know. And that's because of my passion. And that's because I really want to know the truth. And I really want to know what is written about us, our ancestors, and what the truth was. So family, this term of butt breaking or buck breaking, this was homosexuality on the slave plantations. This was Massa beating our men into submission so he could have his way with our men and have his friends come in and join into this party. And it was done mainly on the plantations in Jamaica. So you can see why our Jamaican people so-called rebel when it comes on to this. Because they paid the ultimate price. Yes. Don't let anybody call you a MF. That is a mother effer. Don't let anybody call you that name. Because we are calling names unto ourselves. And I keep telling you that there's power in words. It's word sound power. Whatever you say can cause a person to be deflated. And whatever you say can cause a person to be elevated. So when you call a person an MF, you're basically saying to him that that is what you're doing to your mother. Listen, elevate your minds, get in the know, and stop walking around as if you don't know. Elevate your minds, get in the know, and stop allowing people to use you. With that said, I'm going to close out this video with a short documentary, and I want you to make your notes, get in the know, pass the information on to your children. Educate the next generation so that they can educate their offsprings. I leave you now with love, light, and hopeful energies. Until my next video, continue to check out the other content that I share on this channel. Blessed love, Relem Pursuda.
You had a ship full of African men, women, and children who were at the mercy of the captain and all the sailors on that crew. And those men could have sex with anybody they wanted to. The women, the children, and the men.
You had to see 3 months tied down with these white men. There ain't no women there for the most part. When they start bringing women, they weren't even bringing women. They were bringing girls between the ages of 6 and 15 and raping them all. But they also were raping the men. Same things are happening on the plantation to demasculinize the black man.
Control the slave population is to rape a father in front of his sons, or to take the biggest, baddest black man on the plantation and do something horrible to him, to completely humiliate and emasculate him so that people won't respect him anymore. And that still happens to this day.
In the Caribbean, they had seasoning plantations, which were plantations used to break the slaves. And one plantation, or one place that had a lot of seasoning plantations, was Jamaica. And people have to wonder, what were they doing on these seasoning plantations that was worse than what was happening on the regular plantations? Well, one thing that they were doing on these plantations, especially in Jamaica, they were doing a process called buck breaking, where the white supremacist slave owner or the white supremacist overseer would literally rape black men in front of the whole black population in order to break his spirit, in order to break him down as a man, in order to show dominance against him, in order to show the rest of the black population that this is not your leader. I just made your leader submit to me sexually. And this happened a lot in Jamaica. This is why homosexuality is so looked down upon in Jamaican culture today.
And it was a way primarily of cutting down those who would rebel. In other words, it was a matter of power and control and domination. And they would call it buck busting, but it was really butt busting.
Slavery continued until 1865 for about 2 generations, right? So how do you reconcile that? You can no longer bring in Africans, but you still have the business of slavery. So they still needed Africans to do the work down south, especially after the cotton gin was invented. So you had the creation of breeding farms. 2 of the largest slave breeding farms in the United States were on the eastern shore of Maryland and right outside of Richmond, Virginia. They literally bred black people like cattle. They would have a strong black man have sex with a healthy black woman. That woman could be his mother, his sister, his aunt, his cousin. It didn't matter, because the end product was produce a child that I can sell, bodies that I can sell and ship down to Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. It was a business.
We had breeding farms in the United States that would put one person from one plantation against another. We even had a system where if you were a breeder, male on one plantation, and a female on another plantation, or even on the same plantation, even if you were mother and son, they would mate you. And so I tell a lot of my patients and a lot of my friends, you got to stop using the MF word, because that was a description of what actually happened when the paper bag would go over the head to put one breeder against another when they were related.
Don't lose African heart, lion heart. Seek and you shall find by design. Don't want you lose your African mind. African talk, African birth to decline.